This is the Seahawkers Podcast, episode 399. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, as he's lighting up a victory stogie for the season, my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
Shoot, 399, man. I feel like we came up just a little short this year. It should have been 400 for the end of the season episode. You know, like the Seahawks came up a little short of the Super Bowl, but even still, though, that still feels like a victory. Just like, you know, getting to show 399 feels like a victory. What a year, dude. What a journey. It was wild. This is wild. It was fun. It was frustrating. It was everything a football season should be if you're a fan short of winning a championship.
Well, I mean, I think I timed it out pretty well for expecting a Super Bowl preview show ahead of the end of the year. But you know, what are you going to do? As spoiled as we are, you have to hope for to be as spoiled as possible. And we are a spoiled, lucky, and fortunate fan base. This season wasn't how things were supposed to go. This was our 10th season that we've covered on the show. Yeah. And yeah, we were treated to something that probably wasn't supposed to happen.
It wasn't supposed to happen according to some, but it honestly played out just as we both felt like it was supposed to play out, right? I think I said 7 wins. I think you said 10 or 9.
I don't remember. I probably said something overly optimistic. So yeah, 9 sounds right. We could go back and check the tape. Yeah.
So you were super right. I was a little less right, but we were both more right than most of the freaking stupid national pundits. So that's fun.
You might have that reversed. I think you said 9 wins.
Maybe I did.
I don't remember.
But with all of it, the way things went with the offense clicking, with a 4,000-yard passer, 2 1,000-yard receivers, a 1,000-yard running back that didn't play the whole year, and an offensive line that features 2 rookie tackles that will be there for perpetuity, knock on wood, right? For
perpetuity.
Injury
I'm
and all
counting on them in the next 40 years, still bookending that offensive line.
Shoot, 10 years in the NFL is perpetuity, bud. Like that's what that is. So I just, that you couldn't be more excited about. You have Tariq Woolen emerge. You have Kobe Bryant be so. You find out that Cody Barton can't play. That's good to know. Mike Jackson, another gem that you find that you're going to have to re-sign, but that's pretty cool. Diggs starts to round into form towards the end of the year. Like, there's just so much positive to take away from this, despite getting smoked in the second half by the Niners in their final game. And man, fired up for the future, fired up for these next couple months, just to see what this team does with this incredible opportunity that's in front of them.
As much of a bummer as it was to get smoked in the second half by the Niners, I would have still taken a win over San Fran just to then put off that beatdown the way the Giants got beat down by the Eagles 38-7. I would have taken that knowing that I didn't have to watch any more Frisco football for the rest of the season. And now here they are. We're counting on those same Eagles to beat them down coming up here this weekend.
Yeah, big Eagles fan this weekend, this guy right here. Yeah, I'm pretty excited for that because I have to see Brock Lucky end his streak of absolute horseshoe implanted firmly up your ass quarterback play. Like, somebody's got to take advantage of the 3 picks he throws a game that nobody catches.
But if the horseshoe is so firmly implanted, I almost feel like you have to bet on it at this point. He went in and had that surgery done after being selected as the final pick in the draft. It's not coming out. I don't think.
I think you can jar it loose. I expect one of the Eagles to actually tee off on him throughout the game this next weekend. And
Fletcher Cox has an ass magnet retriever.
It's a welcome to the league rookie moment. That's what I'm predicting right there and rooting so hard for. Because if I have to see George Kittle be excited anymore, I'm going to break a TV. I know I will.
Yeah, he was pretty excited after he led them on that game-winning drive, essentially, because that match was so close. And yeah, then they run that play where he's not even an eligible receiver, where he throws his hand up, runs down the middle, ball bounces off his hand, off his face mask, and somehow avoids the safety just coming in to thump him. And he totally whiffs, even though he's running in a straight line and not even looking where he's going. How does that happen?
Just hit George. That's probably not a catch. So frustrating. No doubt about it. Yeah, tough game to watch. One thing that you do take away from that is, man, Dak's anti-clutch in big moments. I mean, he really is other Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I do. It also makes me think about our quarterback situation, because as good as it has been, I do kind of think of Geno in that same category as Kirk and Dak.
Yeah.
And that's what, so after watching the playoffs, after we bowed out and watching those quarterbacks lose in the fashion they did, I'm super happy that we had the season that we did for Geno, because what a freaking year for Geno Smith. He starts out by taking down the guy who had the starting job ahead of him in week 1. He beats the Giants, beats the Chargers, and closes it out by finishing and soundly beating the team that drafted him in the New York Jets. So he gets to go on this full revenge tour. He sets a franchise record for passing yards in a season. He sets a franchise record for passing attempts in a season. Completions, sets the franchise record for completion percentage, almost hit 70. And it's quite a year for him. And yet I still can't help but think about him in that same category and go, well, what are we going to do this offseason?
Yeah, so you can look at it a couple different ways, right? Like Kirk and Dak have both been, let's say Kirk even with Washington.
Yeah.
He still played with a fantastic defense during those years. And now you look at Dak, and as he's gone to the playoffs a couple times here with a very good defense, can't get it done. Geno gets him there and keeps him competitive with the team that's, the most on fire in all the NFL right now. They're out a half. And then the defense totally unravels, which causes him to unravel a little bit, because now you start pressing, you're trying too much, you hold the ball too long, you're trying to do too much. I start to wonder, is Geno anti-clutch? Or does Geno just need, I don't know, a mildly competent defense to back him up?
And I suspect that maybe the answer for the team is the latter, because you heard from John Schneider coming out of this game. You heard from Pete Carroll. They all seem on board with continuing on with Geno Smith. It's so hard to read into it, because especially where they are drafting with the 5th pick, you just roll as if you're rolling with Geno, franchise tag him if you have to, and then make other teams believe that you're going elsewhere with that pick? Or does it just benefit you to have all of your options open so you can be flexible? Or do you just see if you can get a bargain type deal? And I don't know what that actually means in terms of Geno. If it would be, I guess it would be something that comes in less than the franchise tag. But I also have to think that if you're John Schneider and Pete Carroll, you're thinking, man, we did this with Geno. Why don't we just wait and see who our options are come the summer? And maybe we can roll the dice again with whatever quarterback in our system. And maybe it doesn't really matter who is behind center to a certain extent.
So you have two conflicting things that have come out of the mouth of Pete Carroll.
Right.
Basically, I love Geno. We definitely want Geno back. Geno's been an amazing leader. He did this, he did that. Love Geno. And then you hear John Schneider today say, yes, we do want to try to sign Geno and bring him back. Okay. And then you have Pete also say in one of his, I don't know, it must have been a week or two ago presser.
It was his end of season press conference. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, just look at how well quarterbacks play in our system. Right. Kind of indicating, well, all right, maybe Pete believes it's more the coaching in the system than it is maybe a specific guy. But I do think it's really important for team chemistry for Geno to come back. And before we kind of go through, I did some research on a few different things. I think the first thing we need to talk about is, what is the goal of this team for the next 3 years? What is the objective? Like we gotta set what the expectation and the objective is. And I give 3 years because Pete's under contract through 25, and I think John's linked at the same exact time or within a year.
It's close, something close. Like that.
Right. So these next 3 years, what is your objective? What is the goal? What are you trying to accomplish?
3 Super Bowls.
Or at least one.
Oh, okay.
Right?
I thought you were asking me for my goal.
Okay. All right. 3 Super Bowls. Fine. All right. So, or at least one. The goal is to win a Super Bowl before Pete's done.
Yeah.
Because I think we all kind of feel like by 25, it's probably going to be done for Pete. He's just getting up there, right? Maybe not, but probably. The goal is to win a Super Bowl. How do you go about that? What needs to happen? And what things have happened in the past to allow teams to meet that objective in a very short window?
All right. So the goal is in the next 3 years. And I think what we've seen from other teams in terms of the roadmap of the NFL is that you build up your team and then you acquire the quarterback, whether it is through a trade, whether it is through a free agent signing, or just going and drafting the guy that ends up becoming the guy who can get you there. And in that last category, we've seen Joe Burrow be that guy. Now, they haven't won the Super Bowl yet, but they were there last year. They're 1 year away. The Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, that's how they did it. They had the team built up. They get rid of Alex Smith. They turn it over to him. He's able to go and win a Super Bowl. And the Tampa Bay way, where they build the team up. They get Brady. He's able to lead them to a Super Bowl. So that seems to be the way, right?
Right. That's the most common narrative, right? Have a decent team. You get that first round quarterback, that big talent that gets you over the top, and you win a Super Bowl. That's the narrative that is shoved down all of our throats, right? And it has to be an offensive juggernaut, and you have to have a out of this world quarterback, out of this world, to compete.
It seems that way based on just my recent memory. I guess the one exception to that is Nick Foles with the Eagles, right?
Actually, there are 4 exceptions of guys. So I kind of went back and looked. Oh, since 2000.
Okay,
which
so
I
we're
think
going
is
back 20 years.
Good, yeah, good sample size, 22 years, right? So in that time period, there have been 4 guys who I believe you don't look at as a top 10 quarterback kind of year in, year out for the majority of their career, right? Like they have some ups and downs and all that, but usually you look at him and you're like, yeah, that dude, yeah, he's right in there. He's one of the top 10 guys.
Yeah.
So there's only been 4 dudes: Trent Dilfer, Nick Foles, Brad Johnson, and I threw Stafford in there. Now, people might debate that, but I think for the majority of his career, he's been viewed as like a 15th to 18th best quarterback in the league for the majority of his career. I think most people look at him that way.
I don't know. You could put him in the draft pedigree pool because he was the first overall pick. And I'm assuming I'm assuming that
I'm just
you
talking
have
about performance.
Okay. Well, and if you're going to throw performance in there, then you have to throw end of career Peyton Manning in for one of them.
That's fine. That's fine. And I'm with you on that. But over the course of his career, he was obviously considered a top 10 QB more years than not.
Sure.
Right? Okay. And he also won a chip as a top 10 QB, but he wasn't drafted before 2000 or from 2000 on. He was drafted before 2000. He's kind of the anomaly in some of this you have to look at. The other anomaly is Tom Brady, right?
He's kind of an
We're
anomaly.
not getting Tom Brady. Yeah. We're not getting Tom Brady. Nobody's getting Tom Brady for another 50 years.
I don't know, Adam. He's a free agent this offseason. Do we need to talk about bringing in Tom Brady?
Well, no, because I think there's a different free agent quarterback I'd be more interested in, although not super interested in. But so if you go back and you look at it from 2000 to now, there have been 5 dudes, 5, who have been drafted in the first round.
Yeah.
That have won a Super Bowl for their team. You know how many quarterbacks were drafted in that time in the first round? Take a guess.
Oh, in the last 20 years?
Yeah, just a guess. You don't have to be close.
Oh,
just
well,
spitball
if you, it's probably not 4 a year, but it's probably 75% of that. So 60.
You're damn close, bud. 65 quarterbacks. So there have been 5 dudes who have been drafted that have won a Super Bowl for their team that have been drafted in the first round. 5 of 65. That is an 8% success rate. 8%. Yeah. That is not the slam dunk we're all told, right? Oh no, you just go, you draft the quarterback in the first round, you're good to go. It's all about, like, it's at least a 50-50 shot. That's what most people seem to think. There's an 8% chance you're going to draft a dude in the first round and he's going to win a Super Bowl for your team. That does not seem like high odds to me.
No, it doesn't. And I think a big part of that is because for a majority of those quarterbacks drafted early on, good quarterbacks tend to go to bad teams just because the way that that's the way the draft is structured. The bad teams start out drafting first. A lot of them bring in a quarterback without having the rest of the team built. And then they end up flaming out because they don't have an offensive line that to help them out. They don't have any of the players to help them out. They don't have a defense that can help the offense in any sort of way. So you generally see the success when it's teams that they either trade up to get an early pick or they kind of luck their way in a similar way to, I don't know, as the Colts kind of luck their way into a bad season, right? Manning gets injured. They end up with the first overall pick. And then all of a sudden, hey, here's Andrew Luck.
Exactly. So basically what you said there was they need support around him, right? I would argue the most important form of support that a quarterback could have in winning a Super Bowl, and again, in our next 3 years, is a defense, right? I don't care if you're the greatest quarterback.
Have you watched our defense this year or the past 3 years?
Exactly. But again, we have all of this draft capital, cap space, all that. How do we utilize it? Do we go with Geno? Do we go draft a guy? What do we do, right?
Yeah.
So if you look back from 2000 to current, or in the last 10 years, just the last 10 years, 7 of those 10 teams to win the Super Bowl, they have been top 10 in points per game allowed.
Okay.
So 70% of the time, you have to have a defense that's at least a top 10 unit.
Right.
4 out of the 10 have been a top 5 unit.
Okay.
So it seems pretty damn important that you have a really good defense.
Oh, man, that kind of leads us to think that an NFC team might be winning it this year.
Possibly. It's not like the Bengals have a terrible defense. I don't know where they rank in terms of, I chose points per game because to me, that's the overall best metric for a defense.
Now I want to look at the 2022 points per game. San Fran, number 1, obviously. Philly was number 6. Oh, Cincy was number 5. Okay. And then KC was dead nuts in the middle at 15.
And one of the teams to win a chip in the last 10 years without a really good defense was KC.
Right. Because they
also
really
had
good
a historic offense.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. If you draft a guy at number 5 to be, and again, I get the thinking, right? When's the next time you're going to have the number 5 overall pick? Probably not in the next 3 years.
If you base it on Pete Carroll's career, you may never have it again.
There you go. So I can see the appeal in terms of you're not going to have this opportunity again. But even if you get that guy, he's not going to be any better than Geno in terms of getting you further than the first round of the playoffs without a defense. You have to have the defense to go with a guy that plays at a top 10 quarterback level. And I think most people could argue that Geno played at a top 10 level this season.
Statistically, it bears out that way.
Absolutely. So if that's the case, if you are to take that number 5 pick, and let's say you spend it on defense, what does history tell us about that? So I went back and I looked through from 2000 to today, all the defensive top 10 picks throughout that time period.
Ooh,
there were 98 of them. 98 of them.
98 and top 10 picks.
Yep.
Okay.
On the defensive side of the ball. Now, these last 2 years, it's tough to tell who's a Pro Bowler and not because they haven't played.
You kind of have to throw out the last 2 or 3 years. Just
okay. Well, I included them, but so 2 years ago, there's one guy who was legit a Pro Bowler. I didn't write down his name. I can't remember. And then this year, I would say all 5 of those dudes in that draft, whether that's Sauce or Thibodeau or Hutchinson, Trayvon Walker, they all look like that they will probably be Pro Bowlers. So I counted all 5 of those dudes as a hit. And people can debate that with me if they want. But if you take the rest of them and you count up how many of them turned out to be Pro Bowl players, 57 of the 98 dudes that were taken in the top 10 on the defensive side of the ball became Pro Bowlers throughout their career. That's a 58% hit rate.
So that's a legit better than a coin flip. Yeah, I saw someone in our Facebook Ring of Honor group this past week say, gosh, I'm not so sure I even want to go defense with our top 10 pick because just the history of Pete Carroll and John Schneider picking dudes on the defensive line, it's not good. So it has me concerned that if they are to pick on the defensive side, that they're going to blow it somehow.
And I totally understand that concern, but also think about where they've been picking. Picking these dudes at the top of the draft is better than a coin flip. That's everybody. The bad general managers, the good general managers, all of them, right?
Right.
I like the odds of us getting a really good player in the top 10 on the defensive side of the ball. And not only that, but if you're not going for the quarterback, there's 3 or 4 teams that are directly behind you that are quarterback needy. You might be able to trade back, stay in the top 10, pick there, pick again, maybe in that draft, or carry it over to the next year. However it is that you do it.
Right.
But I think strategically that makes a lot more sense, because if you need a quarterback who plays at a top 10 level, well, we've got that guy already on the roster, or hopefully back on the roster. And then you need a top 10 defense. Which one of those things are we further away from having?
The top 10 defense feels farther.
Yeah. So why not spend your resources there in this high draft pick and have, instead of an 8% chance of picking a dude who's going to take you to a Super Bowl, have a 58% chance of having a Pro Bowl player who is going to make a massive difference on the defense to take you to a Super Bowl. I just think that it's a no freaking brainer. As I went through this, I think drafting a quarterback with the number 5 pick, or even the 7th pick, if they trade back or anything like that, is a disaster. It's a disaster. If you want to pick one up in the 2nd or 3rd, or, one of these guys, I've yet to go through and look at them. I don't know if there's any of those guys available in this draft,
right,
that you'd look at and be like, hey, he'd be a good developmental guy or whatever. Okay, fine. But at the top of this draft, I don't think there's any way that you should go quarterback. I think that's malfeasance.
I don't think I would go as far to say malfeasance, because
if your goal is to win a Super Bowl in the next 3 years.
Well, in John Schneider's position, if he is scouting players and he identifies the guy that could be that 10% chance, and you're going to have that quarterback for the next 15 years, then you still have to take the shot.
Okay, so you like the lower odds with a longer window than the higher odds for a shorter window.
You're making the argument for a player who is going to make a Pro Bowl versus a player who could lead the franchise for a long time. So it's 2 different types of odds. The higher odds are on a defensive player who makes the Pro Bowl. I mean, I like the idea of putting it into the Super Bowl window question, but I also like the idea of thinking long term for the franchise, as it seems they've done over these last 10 years, of having some kind of sustained success, even though it's never really shown out on both sides of the ball at any one time, apart from the Super Bowl years.
It's a lot different in 2017 to think about 7 years ahead. And not only that, but in the NFL, good luck predicting what's going to happen in 4 years. I mean, everything can be turned on its head. You could end up with another guy who could lead your franchise for another 10 years. Or you have a 58% chance of picking a dude who is going to lead your defense for the next 10 to 15 years.
I think what I'm saying is that I'm staying open-minded throughout this offseason up until the draft of whether they go defense or quarterback, because I really am, even right now, even with the information you've presented, I'm okay with going either way.
I am completely not. This is exactly what I would do if I were the GM. So there's 2 franchise tags, right? Like there's a restricted and an unrestricted. Isn't that right?
Exclusive and non-exclusive is what you're going for.
One of them's higher than the other. Like it's about 10 million more.
Well, when I look at overthecap.com, I see their 2023 projected franchise and transition tenders. So I know there's an exclusive franchise tag. There's non-exclusive. There's also this transition tag. Or did they do away with one of those here recently? Because all I'm seeing is the franchise tag number at $32 million a year and a transition tag number at $30 million a year. I don't see a different option for franchise, because it used to be there was an exclusive franchise that was like the top 5 of the average salaries at the position. And then I think the non-exclusive was top 10, but maybe that's shifted.
Well, this is according to CBS Sports. They say that if Geno were to get the exclusive tag, it'd be $45 million, and the non-exclusive tag, $32.
Okay, well, there's zero chance that they're paying Geno Smith $45 million a year, so we can ignore that number.
Exactly, because that's stupid. So this is why I think this is the way that I would go. It's best for Geno. It's best for the team, and it gives you some flexibility. I would do the non-exclusive franchise at $32 million.
Right.
That's a good deal. That's $20 million cheaper than the top tier quarterbacks. It's almost half price.
And no other team is going to give you 2 first-round picks for Geno.
No, and I don't even know if you have to get 2 first-round picks back. I don't know if that's part of that.
I think he's still allowed to be traded. I think that, yeah, there is some flexibility there.
Right. So I would not exclusively franchise him. I'd allow him to negotiate, because that way, if there is a market for him that's hotter than $30 million, that way Geno can go and get his money. Good for him. That's great. And then you might get a little bit of draft capital in return, right?
Right.
And then at that point, you take the number 5 pick, you draft the quarterback, you re-sign Drew Lock, and then you go forward. But I don't think that's likely. I think that you would end up keeping him for the 1 year at the $32 million. And then if they really do like Lock, bring him back on a 2-year deal or something like that. See how Geno does. Was it a fluke? Was it not a fluke? Is he really that guy? Spend your draft capital on defense and go from there. To me, it's a no-brainer. That's the way I would go. I don't know that I want to give Geno necessarily 3 years, maybe 2.
You know, it's interesting to me that you're bringing up Drew Lock, because, gosh, we're going down the what quarterbacks do you bring in rabbit hole. We had that discussion the entire last offseason when it was Geno Smith and Drew Lock, because now you can bring up names again like Handsome Jimmy, Gardner Minshew.
Oh, I got a better one.
I already threw out Tom Brady.
Oh, I got a better one.
Okay.
If you want to go with a big dick swinging move and like really go for it, what about Lamar Jackson?
Yeah.
He's not signing with the Ravens. Those negotiations have gone nowhere forever. He's a quarterback that performs best in a run-heavy offense.
Uh-huh.
He's uber talented. The injury history is terrifying, and he's going to cost a lot of money. But if you're going to go big,
I'm not opposed to it.
Do a sign and trade with Geno.
Yeah,
and pick up Lamar. I don't know how that would all work. I'm not a capologist.
I don't know either. I mean, they have franchise tag options on their end too at the Ravens. So
yeah, are you interested in Lamar at all?
I am.
Does that pique your interest?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I'm lukewarm on it.
Maybe I'm a little warmer than you then.
Maybe, I don't know. He's a hell of a player.
Well, there's lots to talk about with the quarterback spot in terms of which way they go. So I think that's going to continue this offseason until there's a decision made. And shoot, maybe we find out real quick that Geno's signed a multi-year deal. He's staying with the team.
And Geno in his closing presser, I mean, could it be any more obvious what he would like to have happen?
Although if it was so obvious, why doesn't he just sign a 4-year, $21 million extension like Jason Myers did? And he can absolutely be with the team next year.
Get paid as a kicker. Like, I do not blame him for a second for trying to get the bag.
Based on what I see out on Twitter, I feel that there are some fans that have the expectations that he should just sign a $20 million a year deal just out of the gratitude and thankfulness of his heart that he got to play in Seattle last year. And he should continue to allow the team to have as much cap flexibility as possible by taking a backup level quarterback amount going forward.
Okay, a $25 to $30 million a year deal for Geno anywhere in there is a bargain. That is repaying the team, just like Geno said. Like,
anything under 30, anything under 30, right?
Yeah, people say, I'm not going to pay Geno $30 million a year. And it's like, well, okay. Do you know what the big boys make? Do you? Or do you just hear $30 million and be like, that's a lot of money? I don't know. Like, what? It's a lot of money in reference to what?
30 million is the bottom of the starting tier of quarterbacks. Like of quarterbacks who are consistent starters, he would be at the very bottom of that list.
Yeah, do that. Sign him for a 2-year deal, franchise tag him. I don't really care. Keep Geno, beef up the offensive line a little bit, go after defensive studs and free agency, spend all that extra cap money. Now you can really go for it and make that big splash.
Well, I do want to get into some of the notable free agents and how that cap may work this upcoming offseason. But I want to read an email from Dustin, executive producer Dustin.
Oh, shoot. We should have led with that.
I know. I had it earlier on, but this conversation took a turn that I wasn't prepared for.
Oh, well, you're welcome.
Dustin says it was a fun season. That was a shitty way for it to end, and it made me sad because we just started vomiting on ourselves in front of the whole party. But the season was a success. I think we need some defensive coaching staff that's not from within. We've had Richard into Ken Norton into Clint Hurt, and our tackling has just been terrible since the LOB died, and it's not getting any better. Like, how does that game go if the first guy gets the tackle every time? Maybe we still lose, but it's a lot closer. Also, after all that offseason, we've got to deal with a fan base screaming to get rid of Geno. From Dustin.
Yeah, and Pete, I've seen a couple of comments in the YouTube videos here that I've watched in the press. Oh, there's Pete. Never can ever underestimate Pete. Underwhelm and disappoint and stuff like that. It's like, what the catfish are you talking about?
I want to hear from those same people their preseason predictions of how this team would do with Pete Carroll as coach, because I have a feeling that the same people calling for him to be fired because they were underwhelmed were also having the expectation that it would be a 3-win season.
Exactly. Yeah, they're just glass quarter full people. Like, they're not even half empty. Like, it's like 3/4 empty. They're just negative ass people.
I think you could still be tired of some of the predictability of Pete Carroll in the areas that he's bad. But,
don't get me wrong. There's days that I'm totally frustrated with Pete, for sure. But at the end of the day, the results speak for themselves. And Dustin did bring up the defensive coaching side of things. It's like, yeah, what if they had Tariq Woolen not play outside leverage by 4 yards and give up the quick in time and time and time again? Actually let him try to make a play instead of just stand out guarding space for no reason.
Yeah, let's funnel the receivers into where Brock Purdy tends to like to throw the football and then not have guys there to defend that space. That's a great defensive plan.
Yeah, against our terrible linebackers in coverage. Yeah, what a mastermind of a thing.
Yeah, and they still were in it for a half. How about that?
But then again, too, like, okay, is defensive coaching really that terrible? Like, they had that 4-game stretch where they were one of the hottest defenses in the league. They had 19 sacks during that time. Tariq Woolen was picking the ball off, and they were winning games. I mean, are they coaches away or are they talent away? I think they're more talent away than they are coaching.
I feel like they're more talent. It's a bigger talent issue, especially if you go back and look at it with that same philosophy, right? Of having Chris Richard, Ken Norton, Clint Hurt. What's the consistent measure among those three? The defenses haven't been good because the talent hasn't been there. And a big part of that is the talent on the defensive line. So put your draft weight and free agency weight into that defensive line, then I think you're going to see coaching get a lot better because coaching is a whole lot easier when you have talented dudes. I mean, how many times do you see defensive coordinators get promoted when they have really good defenses? I mean, it's more to do with the talent than it has to do, I think, with the coaching acumen.
So Dan Quinn's defense in Seattle was amazing. Dan Quinn's defense in Atlanta became terrible. Dan Quinn's defense in Dallas is amazing. What is the common denominator?
Yeah, he had good players.
There you go.
Because you can't even say it's a not paying a quarterback type thing, because going from Atlanta to Dallas, they both had highly paid quarterbacks.
Absolutely. Yeah. But then you go and you draft, Micah Parsons and the kid with the big neck roll, Van Der Esch, and
right.
You get DeMarcus Lawrence, and you bring in Diggs and all that stuff. I mean, yeah, it makes Dan Quinn look a lot better, doesn't it?
It sure does. And how about that? He's being considered for head coaching jobs again.
Absolutely. Him and Daryl Bevell are the saviors in Denver, according to Minnie. I find that interesting.
What, you can't put Shoddy in that group? Why is his name getting thrown around?
Everybody's saying Bevell.
That's wild.
The man who is just completely passed over for head coaching gigs year after year after year after year. Nobody's interested.
If the Denver Broncos get Daryl Bevell as their head coach, holy smokes, I would.
No, they're saying him as OC with Dan Quinn as the head coach.
Okay. Because that would be a really strange head coach pick. I'd rather have Schottenheimer as my head coach.
Yeah, well, for sure. Just by name alone. But yeah, Dan Quinn is your head coach. Bevell is your OC. The guy that Russ hated so much that he got him fired. He can't wait to work with him again.
That I don't think Bevell was a casualty of Russ, was he? Not in the same way Shoddy was.
Every single offensive coordinator since Russ has been here has been a casualty of Russ, except for Waldy.
Well, as much as I want to spend time talking about Russ, I think that I'm ready to turn the page now that we've secured our top 5 pick and a nice little second round pick too. We don't have to go there anymore, but we can talk about our free agents that we have this offseason.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of them.
Some more notable than others. I don't think we need to go through the entire list because what did you say? 30 some?
26.
26.
Yeah. These are the guys that I think are essential that you bring back. Goodwin. It's either that or draft a wide receiver 3.
I think you can bring Goodwin back.
Yeah. I'd be very happy with that. Ryan Neal is essential.
Ooh, yeah.
Mike Jackson is essential. Igwabuke is essential.
I bet he's even like a restricted free agent. If I
don't think he is. I think he's a full-on free agent.
Is he? I don't remember him hitting my radar necessarily because I do kind of like the idea of drafting a dude who can take on that job too. But special teams is important, and I could see you wanting to fill that role. When are we getting to Austin Blythe on this list?
I mean, they could bring him back. I'd be happy. They could get go a different direction. I'd be happy.
Cody Barton, he's on that list.
Cody Barton can go wherever the hell he wants to go. And I've heard lots of people say, well, you got to bring Cody Barton back because Brooks is going to be injured for so long. Why? Why bring back a guy who like legit can't play to fill the shoes of the dude who's injured? Find someone else.
Yeah. I think you can find average dudes to play linebacker pretty easy.
Yeah.
The Eagles figured that out.
Absolutely.
The Rams Super Bowl teams figured that out.
On our text thread in the Niners Cowboys game, I think Clinton said that Van Der Esch is a free agent this year.
Yeah, don't do that.
No? You're not into it? He stops the run really well.
Okay. Yeah, but if you're asking me would I rather have Van Der Esch or a dude who can rush the passer, give me the pass rushing dude.
He's a third tier free agent to me. Second tier free agent. Something like that. Yeah. I'd much rather go after the pass rusher to pair with the rookie pass rusher and really amp this thing up.
And why would you pay for Van Der Esch when you can give that money to Poona Ford, Rashad Penny, and Cody Barton?
I would bring Penny back as the number 2.
But I'm just saying, if you bring back those 3 guys, that's going to eat up that $15 million that you would spend on a starting linebacker.
I mean, shoot, even Tanner Muse, who's a free agent, played okay.
Now, Tanner Muse, I know, is a restricted free agent.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about him. You don't have to worry about him, Penny Hart, John Radigan. He's an exclusive rights free agent. those guys all fall into that category. Why am I not seeing Michael Jackson on this list?
I'm pretty sure he's a free agent. Was I wrong?
I don't know. It'd be pretty sweet if he's under contract for another year.
I don't want to get DJ Reed on that one, you know?
No, I'm a little bit bummed that to see Reed go and have so much success this past year. I would have liked him. I like DJ Reed.
Heck yeah, he's a good player. Him and Sauce made a great cornerback tandem, you know?
Yeah.
It would have been even better if he was paired with the defensive rookie of the year.
Okay, he is. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Jackson is a free agent. Why didn't they put him? This is how disrespected Mike Jackson is they don't even put him on our list of off-season free agents at Spot Track.
I think he should get mid-tier corner money, and I don't think the market's going to be super hot for him.
I'm kind of in the same place with him with Geno, because they've shown that they consistently fill those positions with guys who can play.
I would buy that for corner. Your sample size is...
My sample size is
3.
Yeah. Tavares Jackson, Russ Wilson, Geno Smith.
Well, we didn't have Tavares Jackson. We had Tavares Jackson. Yeah. And he was a guy.
You know, you always hit me for saying Tavares Jackson, and then you go and you say Mariota's name wrong because it's Mariota. So I don't want to hear it from you.
No, I fixed that. I've been on Mariota for a while.
Okay.
Because you were right and I was wrong. See, because I did the work and fixed it. You just continue to screw up a dead man's name and disrespect it. Yeah.
That's how I choose to remember him.
Okay.
I did see that at Spot Track, they did a salary cap projection for Geno Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And the 4 names that they compared him to, Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, and the age when they were signed, the contracts that they got, $35 million a year is what they came out for his projection at about 3 years.
Okay. Matt Ryan at that stage of his career was getting big money. Who are the other ones? Stafford. He was getting big money.
Yeah. Carr and Cousins.
Who got big money and never should have. That's another one you keep hearing, right? Oh, well, get rid of Geno and bring in Derek Carr. What a backwards move.
Yeah, I don't necessarily get that move. Although he could come in and revitalize his career the same way Geno did. How about that? And when then maybe Pete Carroll would get Coach of the Year consideration for once.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when a quarterback's best play is drawing DPIs, he's not a good quarterback.
Is Drew Lock really out of the question? What if the Seahawks were to come out tomorrow and say that they've signed Drew Lock for $8 million for next season?
Oh, I think that's wholly plausible.
Okay.
Yeah. I just don't know how much they liked what they saw of him throughout the course of the year behind the scenes, since we didn't really get to see anything. So you kind of have to, it's hard to know.
Would that tell you, though, at that amount, would that tell you that there's a guy that they saw pushing Geno?
Yeah.
That's what it would tell me, too, if it were as high as 8.
And it would also tell me that they're not interested in drafting a quarterback very much. And it would also tell me that they think that he's good enough in case Geno doesn't play every single snap again.
Okay.
And as long as Geno pays up on his bets, we're probably okay.
Still got to go there. Oscar went there too when I had my conversation with him ahead of the Niners game.
Because it's such a weird, oddball, funny story. I mean, it wasn't funny at the time, and I'm sure that really sucked for Geno and everything. But I mean, even him this far removed has to kind of be like, man, that's crazy.
Was that a bet thing or was that a charity?
Oh, thing? No. Plane ticket that he was supposed to go to a charity.
Right.
Or the other guy was, and Geno didn't pay, or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's been so long now.
Yeah.
I think we nailed the basics, though.
Geno got his face smushed because he owed a dude like $500.
Yeah, it was over a small amount of money, relatively.
Yeah.
It's even an amount that I would pay not to get punched in the face.
Oh, I forgot to throw out my last idea about QB for the future and Geno. So re-sign Geno to like a 2-3 year deal.
Okay.
And then I'd go and trade a second or a third, probably a third, if you could get away with it. And I think you could because of the situation, for Zach Wilson.
Oh, okay.
Let's reclaim another New York Jet.
I like taking the risk there. He's a guy who is athletic, has a big arm.
Yeah, and he'd get out of the New York spotlight. He'd get back out west.
Yeah.
There's lots of MILFs in Seattle, I'm sure. Yeah, I just think if Pete's this good at, the reclamation of quarterbacks,
why not?
That's a guy that he could be your answer for 7-8 years if you can get his head screwed on straight.
I'm not opposed to that either. See, there's very few options you can throw at me and say, and I would just cast it aside. That's one of the fun things about this offseason.
Absolutely. It's gonna be just fascinating. This is the most fascinating offseason in quite some time for this team.
Well, what do you say we talk more about it in the second half of the show?
Beauty.
Adam, as we get into the second half of the show here, another thing that I'm excited about is looking at prospects this offseason, because after talking with Jim Nagy, had an interview with him earlier on in the week.
I haven't listened yet.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
It went really well. And former Seahawks scout, so he has some of that insight of what the Seahawks should do. The funny thing to me is, okay, I bring on the dude who's the executive director of the Senior Bowl, and I felt like he was trying to talk about prospects that aren't even going to play in the Senior Bowl. And that it threw me for a loop, but it kind of got me thinking, just because of where the Seahawks are drafting with the top 5 pick. Generally, those guys who are projected in the top 10 anyway, even if they are seniors, aren't going to play in the Senior Bowl because they don't need to improve their draft stock at all. They're in the top. They're considered in the top 10. Why go out there and risk yourself getting hurt? Why risk yourself having a bad showing? Right. Just go into the offseason.
Those guys could be awfully available at 20. They could be awfully available at the first, second round pick from the Broncos.
And we talked about some of those guys.
Okay.
So there's some players to watch coming up in the Senior Bowl. The Seahawks, they like to pick dudes that perform at the Senior Bowl. We've seen that in the past. So that'll be a game to watch. I've been watching some of the college guys with their scouting videos because, Top Billin' is a good channel, even though it's not a Seahawks channel. A lot of good college players to watch for on that channel.
Murph is a lot of fun, man. Like that dude, he's got a whole style to him that I genuinely enjoy. Ooh, look at that guy. He just got muscle relax right there. Ooh, man, we all know what that is right there. Love it.
We got the combine coming up. And they have a lot of picks this year.
And I think they'll have more. Because your other option, right, is to trade back. What are the teams right behind 5 that need a quarterback? It's like, let's see. It's
Carolina is one of them.
Yeah. So you got the Rams, Vegas, Atlanta, Carolina, and New Orleans. Which one of those teams do you predict is going to be god awful next year, even if they draft a quarterback?
Because what you want to do is you want to trade for a future first round pick, like San Fran had to give up. And then we can root for that team to be bad next year.
Yeah.
And I kind of like having 2 teams to root for, our team and the team playing against a team that we want to be bad. That was fun for this year.
It was a good time. So I would advocate that they trade with Vegas or New Orleans, if at all possible, for their first next year and their first this year, and then a late rounder.
Carolina makes a ton of sense, though, because there's that relationship with the former GM from the Seahawks being at Carolina now, or the former player personnel director.
Yeah. Pretty sure it's Fitterer, right?
Fitterer. That sounds right.
But I think the Panthers could be sneaky good. Some people are talking about Brady going to the Panthers.
What? Tom
Sean
Brady?
Payton and Brady to the Panthers.
Yeah, I guess they have a defense.
They just don't have much for weapons.
That's going to be another storyline this offseason. What does Brady do?
Who cares?
I kind of care. It's interesting.
Okay. I will give you that. It is interesting, but he's kind of washed.
Yeah.
He's a great slide tackler.
Yeah, he even got fined for it. Did you see that?
Oh, no. Did he actually get fined for it?
He got fined for an attempted trip. Like, he didn't even trip the dude. He tried to. Oh, and that was that.
He deserves it.
And so, yeah, he has a history of it, though. So it makes sense why the NFL would fine him, because he actually did trip Tariq Woolen on the interception that was thrown his way. And so that's probably why he did get the fine, because, hey, you got fined for this, or you got penalized for this against the Seahawks, and here you go trying to do it again. You know you're not supposed to do that. The fine is well deserved, if you ask me.
Oh, sure. It'll be 0.005% of his next signing bonus.
Yeah. No, he was pissed about it, though. He was talking about it on his last podcast.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, he was pissed because he didn't even trip the guy.
All right. I can see the argument, I guess. But yeah.
So we have, as quarterback options, Carolina, Vegas, New Orleans.
Maybe Atlanta. I don't think they're sold on Ritter or Mariota.
Throw Tennessee in there. I don't think they're sold on Malik.
Really?
He wasn't playing the last couple games of the year. They had that Josh Dobbs dude.
Look, I like Malik and all of his talent, and I think it's just going to take him a few years.
That's what I mean. So, but you would think that they would get another veteran then to be there as they groom him into that position potentially.
Yeah, that's a Derek Carr landing spot.
All right. Those do seem like the most likely, because you get beyond that and there's...
And then you're out of the top 10 too.
Jets. We've traded with the Jets before.
Yeah, I'm good. No, thanks.
But they have potential, I think, to be decent because of their defense.
Oh, for sure.
And you want to trade with a bad team. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something to watch. I'm watching out for it.
Yeah. All the options. That's the thing. The doors are wide open. If you're John Schneider, this is why you live to be a GM, is for this.
A lot of people are going to want to talk to you with that top pick.
And all your cap space and all the stuff, man. It's a fun thing.
We got the Mel Kiper mock draft, the first one of the year.
Okay. So at the first pick in Mel Kiper's mock draft, the Texans go with somebody they won't pick. And at number 2.
No, the Texans are number 2. Remember, they won that last game.
Yeah.
So that their coach could get fired.
I guess Kiper's mock drafts these days, they do have value in the sense that if you go through and you read it, you know exactly who they won't be picking.
That's what we've said for years.
Yeah.
So with the 5th pick, the Seahawks will not be selecting Will Levis, quarterback.
Haven't looked at him yet. Kentucky quarterbacks have not fared well in the league.
No.
Overall.
But there are 3 quarterbacks projected in the top 3 of Kiper's mock draft. CJ Stroud to the Texans at number 2. Bryce Young to the Colts at number 4.
What if the Bears call and they want to trade Justin Fields and then use their number 1 pick on a quarterback?
Ooh.
Are you interested?
Heck yes, I am.
I like Fields. I think he has a ways to go as a passer.
And the reason why I say yes, and based on those caveats, because I agree with you, but look at what Jalen Hurts has been able to do, because he had those same qualities, except I see Fields as a better Jalen Hurts.
And how beautiful would it be to have Fields win a chip and rub it in the face of the Niners who passed on him for Trey Lance?
Yes. Although I feel like they may think that their quarterback situation's solved right now.
49ers?
Yeah, they got Purdy.
Okay.
They're going to look at that and feel like they've solved it.
And there's no way you look at that.
What if the Niners come calling and say you can have Trey Lance?
Catfish! No.
I mean, just while we're throwing out all of the 2021 quarterback options that could be traded, now we've covered them all.
There you go. But I just think that if you're the Chicago Bears and you do have the number 1 overall pick in one of these quarterback teams, again, I haven't gone through them yet, and I probably should have, but we've got the whole offseason.
We got the whole offseason.
Yeah. I just, I don't know. Would you trade 5 or trade back and trade like 15 for Fields? Would you do that?
I don't know. I'll just say that I'm intrigued by the possibility without knowing what draft picks we have to give up.
Because I mean, if you're the Bears GM, you can't be all in on Fields at this point.
He wasn't the current GM's pick, right?
Nope.
Yeah, they took over after.
Yeah, Mr. Smithers and the GM. The the coach looks like Mr. Smithers.
Yeah.
Eberflus.
Okay, so Will Levis at 5, and then some other pass rusher with the 20 pick.
Okay.
Oh, Byron Young at a Tennessee 25-year-old playing. Oh, he's going to be in the Senior Bowl.
Okay.
Currently projected as a day 2 pick. So thanks Mel, for giving us a day 2 pick at the 20th pick. But maybe he's going off of some Seahawks history then, I guess, with that. Senior Bowl guy and projected day 2 guy. There we go. Well done. Mel doing his homework on the Seahawks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we do have some executive producers who have done the homework for the show. Obviously, we heard from Dustin Mock earlier, and he is our executive producer, along with DCH, Brian Shaw, and Rebecca Christensen.
The legends. I owe DCH a phone call. But yeah.
This doesn't count? Just give him a shout out right here? Okay.
No, it does not count. All but right. It does let him know that I did receive his text, and there's been a lot on my plate the last couple of weeks, so I haven't gotten back to him yet.
I haven't gotten a call from DCH. What's up with that? I don't even think he texts me regularly.
Well, if you had DCH to come out and stay at your house, maybe you guys would be closer.
That could be true.
Yeah,
we can make that happen for executive producers.
Sure.
And no new members of the flock this week. That's all right. We did have a group of folks that I do want to recognize coming up that we're helping support in other ways. Yeah, a big group of those folks coming up. But
okay.
Always got to shout out our executive producers, even if they don't text me regularly.
This will be one of the rare weeks that we get skunked on new little flockers that I'm not going to lash out at anybody. I think we all needed a break. It was a long year.
I needed a little bit of a break to be able to do this kind of look ahead type show. I know we closed out I was glad that we did the post game show right after.
Helped.
Because then you could kind of close the book. We didn't have to cover it necessarily on this show. It's time to move on.
Absolutely.
I am glad, though, that we get to cover our Pick'em League. Looking at the Pick'em League standings with just 2 weeks left to go, we've got Kalispell MT Hawk in the lead with 185 points, 2 points. This might be we may be able to crown a champion unless Kalispell MT Hawk really folds up here these last couple of weeks. But 185, and then next place in second, we got a 3-way tie with Charles Cross Will Make You Jump. I'm just here so I don't get fined. Well, Pete said we were awesome, all at 183, and then Fernando Tejada in at 182, along with Peaceful Easily Feeling. A couple of those guys, they just stick around, and there they are in the top 5.
Hang around. You never know. Maybe Brandon's and Kalispell MT, their conspiracy won't go that deep to win this year, and one of these other guys can sneak in. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Because you currently have to reside in the Flathead, I guess, to get this special treatment. Since I moved to Granite County, I don't get the same. It's not because I just didn't do picks. It's because you have it out against me since I'm no longer in the Flathead.
Hey, don't try and pin this on me like if it was
it's you.
Any preferential treatment as far as who's getting the number 1 pick, because we know historically that it's always been Peaceful Easily Feeling, and it's in no way me trying to take down someone who has cheated their way to the top on multiple years and finding someone preferable to take over that top spot from him.
Well, I want to know what the Pick'em League czar Evie has to say about this.
Well, we do have an email from Hugh, but there may be something in here about Evie, so we'll see. Hugh at Lloydzilla out on Twitter writes in, says, as they say, it's the hope that kills you. And at halftime, there was more than a bit of hope. We did everything we needed to. The stupid whiners did everything they needed not to do, and there was hope. We had 1 foot in the next round. We weren't going to be one and done. Even the broadcast team on Sky here in the UK had to start talking about the possibility we could win after giving that notion less than a nanosecond's thought in the buildup. It stuck in their throats and used the expression, even with Geno Smith at quarterback, the Seahawks could actually win this game. And then, we did everything we needed not to do. They did everything they needed to do, and someone pressed the big red implode button, and we were one and done. Not even sure we were one and done. More like half and done, as the second half didn't really feel like we came out to play. Despite all that, what a season. For a team that was given no hope, to have got to where we are is amazing. With the way the season was fun, the offseason should be just as exciting as Pete and John bring in some more bricks to build with for next year. We simply have to strengthen the defense and find people who can tackle, stop the run, and put pressure on the quarterback. Oh, and did I mention tackle? Even after going out against the dirty, cheating whiners and the media proclaiming them as the second coming of football in Christ, I don't care. I'd rather be a Seahawk and go 0-17 than support those gold helmet-wearing dirty whiners. Thanks for the amazing coverage this season. It's been a blast. Oh, and did I mention the whiners? Go Hawks from Hugh. And Evie is mentioned in the PS. P.S. Evie was happy to report that no one picked against us this week and chose the whiners, unlike in week 2 when 6 people picked them to beat us, and they did. Between us, we have created a Pick'em League overlord monster.
Absolutely. People fear the wrath of Evie, I think. I like it. You definitely keep ruling through fear, Evie. I think it's working for you.
We need to sign Evie to a futures contract for the following years of the Pick'em League.
Yeah. I mean, I think at her age, I don't know if she's eligible. I mean, is she still an amateur? Can we actually pay her?
I didn't say anything about paying. I said just signing her to a contract.
Okay. Well, let's not get her hopes up then.
And Hugh may have to co-sign as legal guardian if we're going to make this official.
Yeah.
Although it sounds like she's locked into just the sheer power of the position that's going to be enough. No payment required.
Look, I think it suits her. And I think it's great. And I'm a huge fan.
All right. Well, if we are looking at winners from these past 2 weeks, I don't know if we covered the week 19 picks. We got for Raka for Never, who got 5 picks correct, as well as the tiebreaker. And then we have in the divisional round, a lot of people got all 4 picks correct, but it was Screamin' Seahawk who got it with the tiebreaker. So congratulations to those folks here as we get into the playoffs. Probably no more playoff prizes with just the single games. Like 3 games left, but we can do prizes for these couple weeks of playoffs.
For Raka for Never is a fantastic name.
It is.
Well done. Yeah.
All right. What do you say we get on to some do better and better at life?
All right, man. My do better this week is actually a tandem do better because of one dude's performance and another dude's, well, I guess his performance when he wrote the article, but praising dude's said performance. My do better this week, Brandon, is for Sports Illustrated's Jimmy Trania, something like that. We'll go with it, Jimmy, and Greg Olsen. Man, if you watch the end of the Cowboys 49ers game, Greg Olsen about had a full-on meltdown about, I think it was the second to last drive of the Cowboys. They had to punt with about, the third down play ends with 2:40 left, 2:42, something like that. They go 3 and out and then punt the ball away. And Greg Olsen has a meltdown about how the Cowboys need to get out there and kick this punt. They need to get out there. What are they doing? They're wasting all this time. Mike McCarthy's an idiot. I can't believe what's going on out here. And his lead guy is like, oh, yeah, for sure, yeah. And so basically
I was the same way. It had me convinced that Greg Olsen knew what was going on, and that because he can see it from his position, that they were screwing this up by not taking. I was on board. I'm like, yeah, hurry up, because you got to get save time.
Greg Olsen was detached from reality because Dak Prescott gets tackled with like 2:42 on the clock, and the Cowboys are lined up with the center over the ball, ready to punt the ball away in 10 seconds. 10 seconds. There was like 2:30 left when they're ready to rock and punt the ball. Greg Olsen is already freaking out. What, you want to fucking teleport out onto the field? Like, what are they supposed to do? And so then, as they're sitting there waiting to snap the ball, because the refs
were holding
stopped everything to allow the Niners to substitute as per the rule, they sat there for like another 10 seconds. Then they finally punt the ball. And when it's all said and done, I think the Niners received the ball with like 2:10 left.
Yeah.
Like,
well, the Niners, they took their time. They took their time getting out there.
Right. Which they're totally entitled to do. But that's not on the Cowboys. It's not like they were loafing. Is that they made the decision. They went 3 and out. McCarthy sends the punt team out immediately. The guys are lined up in their spots immediately, ready to go. And because the officials hold up the ball, Greg Olsen goes off and calls them all terrible at their clock management. And Jimmy from Sports Illustrated praises Greg Olsen. The title of the article is Greg Olsen isn't making things easy for Fox when it comes to the Tom Brady situation, and goes through all the wonderful things that he did throughout the game, including about all the clock management stuff at the end of the game. That's where he really shined, according to Jimmy, and specifically mentions and taking the Dallas Cowboys players to task for not hustling more before a late punt to save time on the clock. Catfish! Bullshit! Catfish! They were there. They were ready to go. I can't take Greg Olsen seriously for a second with anything that he says after he came out last offseason and basically threw Pete under the bus, threw Schneider under the bus, threw the whole Seahawks organization under the bus after playing one season with Russ, and blamed all the problems on everybody but Russ. And he was in the room. And guess what he was? Dead nuts wrong. He was dead nuts wrong about the punt from the Cowboys. He's dead nuts wrong about the Seahawks situation. Greg Olsen is a moron. Jimmy is a moron. And they all need to do better.
I actually like him as an announcer generally. Now, there are going to be times when you screw up, don't get things right, especially in live situations. Shoot, you and I were screwing up all the time just watching the game in our situation with the flock whenever we would do the live watch party things. So,
yeah, okay. So Greg Olsen is paid big money to spend all week preparing for
no mistakes, Greg.
Job.
You get 0 mistakes.
Look, I can't take him seriously when historically he was wrong on one of the biggest things he had been around.
Well, as far as being wrong about the Seahawks, yes, he's
right. And then it transfers over to the game. He was dead wrong about the Cowboys. No, he's just wrong. They need to sing the what was it from one of the Christmas movies? You know, wrong, 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 wrong.
I don't think that was a Christmas movie.
Wrong.
Was that? No, that was
from Scrubs.
From Scrubs. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks to Brittany for the assist.
See, Brittany knows. All right. My do better this week is for Panini, Adam, not the sandwich.
Okay.
The card company. Remember how when we were doing the tiny pieces of Seahawks stuff with the little Russell Wilson patches?
Yeah.
And we kind of wondered if it was an actual patch that Russell Wilson had even been around at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, someone ripped into a Tyreek Hill card recently and found that the name, actually on the jersey that goes into the card, they put a name on the back.
Okay.
To, I guess, help identify it to make sure it goes to the right place. Only it didn't work out this way. The person who opened the Tyreek Hill card and found that the name on the back of the jersey, it wasn't Tyreek Hill. I think it was Jarvis Landry, or it might have even been someone else. But it led to about a dozen people or so out on Twitter then ripping into their cards to see if it was actually labeled with the correct person. And I saw someone who had a DeAndre Hopkins that was actually an Andy Isabella jersey. And so Yeah, that's not.
How deep does this go?
That's what I'm starting to wonder. Does this, how far down could it be that some of these Russell Wilson jerseys were actually, I don't know, Gary Jennings? And because who's going to rip open your card to find out if it's the actual jersey? I mean, I guess it's nice to know that they actually put a name on there to identify it, but you have to destroy the thing to find out if the tiny piece belongs to the piece that says on the card. So Panini, for getting this wrong and making people rip into their cards just to find out if they're right or wrong. Now, there were some people that found out that, yes, it was in fact correct and correctly labeled. And they just had to deal with the fact that now their tiny piece of team stuff was on the outside of the card instead of on the inside. But some people just have to know, I guess. And for Panini, for causing this destruction, do better.
Is Panini the card company and Panini the sandwich spelled differently?
No, they're spelled the same.
Darn it. Okay. I was hoping they were spelled differently because I want to start a new card company, Panini, but just spell it differently.
Yeah.
And we can just start making cards and then we'll just cut up pieces of our underwear and write different people's names on it and put it in there. What a scam.
I know. It is a scam.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, they probably do it right. It's just,
I don't know, man. We need to start doing this. This seems like the easiest money ever.
Yeah, tinypiecesofseahawkstuff.com. And this is what we do now.
Yeah. We just grab jerseys and be like, I don't know who wore it, who didn't, if it was ever worn.
It's Seahawks jersey.
Yeah. It's in a card.
Guaranteed to be a Seahawks jersey.
They're all game worn Steve Largent jerseys.
And we could even say that too, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because why not? If the big dogs are doing it, why can't we?
There you go. Well, speaking of big dogs, Brandon, that brings me to my better at life this week. My better at life than Skip Bayless this week for SpaceX, baby. I don't know if you noticed this week, Brandon, but they did a full stack with the booster part of Starship, the Starship part of Starship, put them all together up on their launch pad, and they did a full wet dress rehearsal. And what does that mean? That means that they pumped it full of all of the fuel, everything. Like, it's basically a full on rehearsal of a orbital launch. Like, this is the last thing you really do before you get ready to light that freaking candle, baby. And this thing is amazing. I can't wait to see Starship go up. It was a success. It didn't blow up on the pad, all that stuff. They have made this happen in record time. So to SpaceX for giving this fanboy something to cheer about. Better at life than Skip Bayless. And no explosions.
No explosions is good. My better at life this week is for all of our members of the flock who helped donate to the Damar Hamlin Fund.
Oh, man.
We had one of our flockers, Daniel Weinholtz, put out there, say, hey, with Damar Hamlin, why don't we together as the flock join together? And it was within our Ring of Honor Facebook group. And we did open it up. I think we talked about it on one of the shows as long as you got your donations in before a certain time. So we did get a few others outside the Ring of Honor. But with that effort that Daniel got rolling, we received $1,033.03. So lots of threes for Hamlin, number 3, in donations from the flock. And then we added enough too from the show that we could make 2 $633 donations, which I liked because 6 + 3 + 3 = 12. So from the 12s, and one of them,
your nerds
one of
popping
those,
out, but cool. Yeah. Okay.
My what?
Your inner nerds popping out. But cool.
I had to nerd out a little bit with this. Look, we got people that were donating 3 cents just to have the numbers fit.
Perfect
for number 3. So I had to match that. Obviously, couldn't let that go.
Yeah. Understood. Yeah. Yep.
So originally, a lot of the folks, they wanted the donation to go to the Chasing M's Foundation, which is the toy drive that raised, it's probably up over $10 million at this point.
Yeah.
I know just a couple weeks ago, I remember hearing that it was over 9. And then I think partway into that, it was Hamlin's dad who came out and said that they'd like to see donations also go to the University of Cincinnati Medical Trauma Center.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was where folks said, oh, we should split this up and do a donation there too, especially with the toy drive getting as much attention as it was. And, and so it was cool that we got to do that, split it up. So I wanted to thank all the people who came in with donations from the flock. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody, but I got Jake, Lisa, Clinton, Dawn, Kyle, Gary, Aaron, Mark, Jonathan, Amy, Hannah, Jeff, Dan, Keith, another Dan, MK, Russell, Greg, Randall, Jeannie, David, Scott, another David, Catherine, JC, Kevin, Ken, and TK all coming in and helping us round out to that 1266 number that we got to divide in half between the two places.
Unbelievable, man. A bunch of all-stars right there.
Yeah. So for you are all better at life than Skip Bayless.
Well done, man. That's a great Better at Life to round up the season end show and all that stuff. Just perfect. You guys are the little flock. I say this all the time. They just never cease to amaze. It's unbelievable.
10 seasons, 10 full seasons we've now covered on this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Are we any smarter?
I don't know.
Hard telling not knowing, right?
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.